Welcome to immigrationquestion.com, your go-to resource for U.S. immigration insights. We provide clear immigration news and information. Our platform provides a network of licensed attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylums to citizenships, immigrationquestion.com helps you to network with immigration attorneys so that you can move forward with confidence. Sign up today or download the app. Free registration, limited time offer. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition webinar hosted by immigrationquestion.com, a networking platform and meeting ground where immigrants, families, advocates, as well as licensed immigration attorneys come together to understand U.S. immigration policies and procedures better. My name is Samir Murat, and I will be your host for today's important discussion: marriage-based green cards, spouses of U.S. citizens, and green card holders. For many couples, the immigration process becomes one of the most important parts of building a life together in the United States. Marriage-based green cards remain one of the most common immigration options, but the process can involve extensive documentation, interviews, financial requirements, and different or difficult timelines depending on the petitioner's immigration status. In many situations, couples are also trying to manage travel concerns, work authorization questions, requests for additional evidence, and changing processing trends while keeping their cases on track. Even straightforward cases can become stressful when applicants are unsure about what to expect at different stages of the process. To help us break things down, we are honored to be joined by Viviane Afonso Esquire, a senior immigration attorney at Perez Gardini LLC, with more than a decade of legal experience. She holds a Master of Laws from Boston University and provides comprehensive legal representation to individuals navigating complex immigration matters. Based in Massachusetts, Attorney Afonso is known for guiding clients through their immigration process with professionalism and strategic legal insight. Attorney Afonso, thank you for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you in this special edition.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Before we begin, just a quick reminder to our audience, immigrationquestion.com is a public educational and networking platform. The information shared today is for general information purposes only and does not constitute individualized legal advice. If you are joining us, whether that be on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or another platform, welcome. Please subscribe and share this session with anyone who may benefit from learning more about marriage-based green cards. Let's dive in. To begin, can you explain what is the process of the I-130 petition in the family-based immigration process?
Yes, so the I-130 is basically the start point of an immigration case that's based on a family relationship. So if you are a legal resident or an American citizen and you want to bring an immediate relative to the U.S., you need to start with the I-130 petition. So for green card holders, they can petition through the I-130 for kids of any age and spouses, and American citizens then can petition for kids, parents, siblings, and spouses as well. The difference is that American citizens can also petition for married children, while the green card holders cannot.
Okay.
So the I-130.
Sorry.
So the I-130 is the start point. It's important to show that the relationship exists. So if it's a parent or kids or siblings, it's going to be through the birth certificate. For marriage petitions, you need to show more than just the marriage certificate. You need to show that the relationship is real, based on a real relationship, and not only that you entered into that relationship to help someone get an immigration status. So you need to show it's a real relationship through a lot of documents that we call bona fides, that the documents that show the relationship is real. Another thing that's important for the I-130 is that it will set a priority date. So there are charts and a number of people on the wait line, and then you need to check your priority date in order to follow through with your case.
Okay, and how are current USCIS and consular backlogs affecting this I-130 processing times for families?
So it's really affecting a lot right now. The waiting periods have grown excessively from, for example, I even wrote down, because I don't know this by heart, but for example, for green card holders petitioning for spouses and child, it can vary from 52 to 139 months. And for United States citizens, it can vary from 19 to 216 months. And for siblings, the number is even higher. It varies from 58 to 298 months. Just to have the first part of the case approved, the I-130, sometimes you need to wait a few years. So those backlogs are really significantly affecting the processes and the chances of people to get reunited, families to be together again. So it's really a sad scenario right now.
What evidence do you think is the most important when filing an I-130 petition for a spouse?
So for spouses, like I mentioned, you need to show that the relationship is bona fide. So the bona fide documents, they need to be very realistic to show the relationship is real. And what immigration officers usually like to see are documents that show financial responsibility. So bank accounts, tax returns filed together. They also like to see kids. Of course, if you have kids born out of the relationship, it shows the relationship is real. Assets purchased together, such as real estate, vehicles, things that are like of a higher amount, that will show also the relationship is real.
Okay. Immigrants have been complaining about increased scrutiny in marriage-based petitions in the recent years. Are there any new requirements to know how to prepare better?
So like I mentioned, the bona fides need to be really good so you can show the relationship is real. So when you have pictures from years of relationship showing trips together, when you have tickets and reservations at hotels shared together as well, kids, purchase of things like I mentioned, real estate or vehicles together. Real estate is very important, but more than that, they like to see shared financial responsibilities such as bank accounts and taxes filed together. If you send all of those, the scrutiny is just going to be not taking that seriously because you already sent a lot of documents that show the relationship is real. If you cannot send all of these documents or similar documents like these that I mentioned, their scrutiny is going to go higher. They're going to think maybe the relationship was not entered into good faith, and then they need to show more evidence that the marriage is real, and then they will be scrutinizing your case in a deeper way, and the bar will be much higher for the approval.
What challenges arise when a beneficiary is applying from outside the United States?
So when a beneficiary is outside the United States, we call that a consular processing. When the case is being processed at the consulate for the interview, you need to go first through the first part of the case, which is the I-130 with the USCIS. Then you need to go through the document gathering and analysis with the National Visa Center, which is kind of a conduit in between the USCIS and the consulate. That's where the NVC stands, and they will analyze all of the documents and make sure everything looks good before they send the case to the consulate for an interview. So you have to go through three different agencies pretty much: USCIS, National Visa Center, and then the consulate. The consulate is very strict. They will analyze if you have any bars, and they're very strict on criminal record. You need to send the documents translated. It's a lot of work to get everything translated to the National Visa Center. Then at the consulate, not necessarily needs translation, because the consulate is at the country where the interview is going to take place. So the officers usually speak the language of the country where they are located. But then you need to do a medical exam with a doctor that is allowed to do the exam in that country. In Brazil, for example, we only have 4 doctors. The whole country only has 4 doctors.
Wow. Okay.
So it's hard to get the appointment. You need to be also aware that's going to be a lot of waiting times, because the NVC needs to look at the documents, approve the documents, and send the case to the consulate. Then the consular officer is going to look at the documents as well. So it's a lot of waiting periods. You also need to do biometrics and pictures before the interview at a center that the consulate also directs you to do so. And with all of that, you are far away from your family members sometimes. They are here in the US, and the relatives are outside waiting. So there's the emotional stress. You don't have a way sometimes to visit. You don't have a visa. They don't give you an advance parole to visit. You don't have employment authorization to come to the US and work. So you are sometimes unemployed in your country, waiting for your case to be approved, and your family member is here in the US alone, working and trying to pay for everything, send you money sometimes. And plus, right now, we are facing the difficult times of having some countries with bans. So some countries are doing the interviews at the consulate, but they are not approving any cases because they are part of the 75 countries that are in the travel ban, not travel ban, the green card ban, let's say. They're not issuing green cards. So there's all of those difficulties that the people here outside of the US need to face to go through the consular processing.
And what are some common mistakes families make during this process?
I think one common mistake, for example, on the I-130, when you're sending it through marriage base, you need to send not only the I-130, but also the I-130A. And a lot of people forget the I-130A. They only send the I-130. So sometimes there is a rejection, sometimes there is the denial of the case, and sometimes they do give a chance by issuing a request for evidence and giving the chance for people to complete what's missing. A very common mistake that I see as well from other firms and people that sometimes do the case alone is that they don't send enough bona fides. So like we mentioned before, bona fides are really important. And some people think, for the siblings and the parents and the kids, you only need to show birth certificate. So for the marriage petition, I only need to show marriage certificate. And that's not true. You need to send a lot of documents, and people send not enough. So that's another mistake that I think people do. Another thing is the fees. So USCIS website, when you need to check the fee payment, it's not very clear. You need to go to a chart. There isn't the amount just written there for you. So I-130, this is the amount. You need to go to a chart. You need to click here, click there. And then now you cannot pay with checks or money orders anymore. You need to send another form authorizing the payment on a credit card or bank account. So sometimes people make mistakes on the numbers, for example. And that's unfortunately another way of getting the cases delayed because they get rejected. They destroy the form that you send the credit card information or the bank information before they reject the package. So they send it back to you. And sometimes if you didn't take a copy or scan the package, you don't even know what numbers you had put prior or the number you have put prior. And when they reject, they don't really say, we are rejecting because there was a number wrong. They just say payment was wrong. And they reject, and you don't know if the number was wrong of the account or if the fee amount was wrong or what the mistake was. So that complicates things as well. And another thing is signatures. So when COVID hit, they started accepting signatures not on wet ink. So it could be electronic signatures, it could be scanned signatures. But lately, they have been more strict when it comes to signatures, and sometimes they also reject or even deny a case because the signatures were not properly done on wet ink. So it's important to pay attention to all of these rules so you don't get your case rejected or denied, and hopefully you get a chance to fix it with a request for evidence, which sometimes doesn't even happen.
Thank you for those insights. For everyone watching, this conversation about marriage-based green cards is not meant to create confusion, but rather it's to provide clarity around a process that affects many couples and families across the immigration system. Marriage-based cases often involve multiple stages, denying documentation, and long waiting periods, making reliable information especially important throughout the process. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. ImmigrationQuestion.com is a networking platform where users can ask immigration related questions at no cost and engage with participating attorneys. We are also proud to share that ImmigrationQuestion.com is triple B accredited and ISO certified, reflecting our commitment to transparency, accountability, community education, and security. Attorney Afonso, based on your experience, how does immigrationquestion.com help immigrants and immigration attorneys like yourself?
I think it helps a lot. It's a great tool for everyone who is seeking information. Like I mentioned before, immigration, USCIS specifically, is not very clear on directions and guidances and instructions. And sometimes they reject or deny a case without explaining further in details what really happened. So when we have a place where we can all get together and discuss and help each other and leave hints and tips and things like that, I think it makes our work much more rewarding, and obtaining the immigration benefit much more makes it much more achievable for everyone, which is what we want. When we work in the field, we just want everyone to achieve their dreams, which is usually obtaining a status or a green card or citizenship, and seeing that a community can get together to help each other achieve that is really rewarding.
Before we move into our live Q&A, let's just tackle one very important question. What are some common misconceptions about marriage-based green cards that you believe couples should clarify to avoid misunderstandings?
I think people, especially when you're really married and you are together, you don't really pay attention to details that they might ask during the interview. So sometimes officers ask, "What's the color of your toaster?" Or how is the shape of your couch? And sometimes, you're just busy with your life and you're not paying attention how many keys you use to open the door, or what's the color of the toaster. So I think if people got more prepared for the interviews and went through all of the details in their minds before actually going to the interview, I think it would be much easier, because the misconception is, oh, the marriage is real, so I don't have to worry about it. But then when you get there and they ask a question that you don't know, you realize that maybe just having a real marriage is not enough, because the questions might be tricky and based on details that you don't really pay attention on a daily basis.
If you're joining us for the first time, we're speaking with immigration attorney Viviane Afonso on marriage-based green cards, spouses of US citizens, and green card holders. We're now going to move into our live Q&A session. This is your opportunity to ask questions and hear educational insights from a licensed immigration attorney. Please drop your questions in the chat or call us live at 516-703-3483, and we will take as many questions as the time allows. Okay, first question. My brother filed for me many years ago. How can I know when my priority date becomes current?
So there is a chart you can check the priority date where immigration is at the moment. It's called Visa Bulletin. So if you go on Google and you put Visa Bulletin, it's going to open the monthly charts that they have, and then you have to check your category, and then the priority date where they are processing right now. Usually, if your address is up to date and the immigration has your current and correct information, they will let you know when your case becomes current as well, by letting you know that it's time to pay the fees and it's time to submit the documents to the National Visa Center in order to proceed.
Okay. Question number 2. Why does blood sibling sponsorship take much longer than spouse petitions?
That question is pure legal, I guess, because the reason is because spouses are considered immediate relatives, so they have a priority of processing, while siblings are not considered immediate relatives. So that puts them in a category that is processed much slower, with less priority and with more weight, because there are less green cards available for the categories that are not immediate relatives.
Oh, okay. Can parents also sponsor married children, or is it only unmarried children?
Parents can sponsor married children as long as they are United States citizens. So if they only have green card, they will need to wait, petition for apply for naturalization, and when they are citizens, then they can apply for married children as well.
Okay. Attorney Afonso, when couples hear about changes in immigration procedures or enforcement priorities, how should they interpret those developments in relation to marriage-based green cards? Does this typically affect processing timelines, things like interviews or documentation requirements?
It definitely affects the interviews, because when you meet with an officer for an interview, if they have a different memorandum, like we just had one last week, where they're talking about adjustment of status and how they're only going to be approving exceptional cases, for example, that gives the officers a lot of discretion, which they already have. We all know that, but that makes it clear, that makes it express. It's written. They have discretion to do what they want, basically. So that affects in that sense. When you go for an interview and the officer has that authority expressed, like it has been now, they will be much stricter. They will analyze the case in a much stricter way. They will ask for more and more documents. They will maybe not approve a case they would have approved before, because now they can subjectively analyze the case and decide not to approve it because they believe, for example, the person doesn't have good moral character because they have a criminal record, such as driving without a license, which before was not considered such a problem. Now it could start to be a problem for people that are applying more recently. So all of these new developments make the cases more difficult because the officers can actually deny based on their discretion.
Thank you for that. Thank you to everyone who's joined us for this special edition webinar, and thank you, Attorney Afonso, for sharing your knowledge as well as your practical guidance. You can always visit immigrationquestion.com to ask immigration-related questions, to stay informed about policy updates, and register for upcoming live events. If you've missed any part of today's discussion, the replay will be available on Spotify soon. Search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. We look forward to seeing you on Friday at our next live session. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you.